This guy we're talking about, Keaton, Keaton. In my family, comedy was king. We went to the movies to see anything that was comedic. And of course, Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keaton, Harold Lloyd, they were I saw it as a kid, and then when we were older and we did the shows, we used to do silent movies, and we used to go see them, and they played at the Museum of Modern Art. Buster Keaton was maybe the funniest of them all. Of course, tip of the hat to Chaplin. Without Chaplin, there would be no movies. He's the king of it all. But Keaton was so much funnier than anybody else. I mean, every one of his movies I've seen at least once or twice.
Joe, Myra, and Buster moved to New York. And I find them living in New York City in the 1900 census. Buster, of course, at that point was only 5 years old, but he soon became part of the act and became the focal point, really, of the three Keatons.
Within the structure of the vaudeville business, there were performers who got it and played along and knew that they were without leverage and had to play by these rules. And many performers bucked the system and ended up paying a price for it. Joe Keaton had a bit of a reputation as a troublemaker within the halls of the booking agencies, and occasionally the Keatons suffered and were without bookings or had to take substandard bookings. At the point where the Keatons were a pretty established, big-time vaudeville act and had very popular responses from audiences, people loved the Keatons act, they would occasionally be trekking out to some terrible booking somewhere because Joe didn't really respond properly to his routing, complained about things. He was tough, and the moguls of vaudeville didn't like tough.
My grandfather was Buster Keaton. He had 2 young boys, and the elder son was my father, James Talmadge. He really thought of Muskegon as his hometown because in vaudeville they traveled for 9 months out of the year, but it was too hot in the summer for vaudevillians to put on shows. So during the summers, many of those vaudevillians came to Muskegon and they started the Actors Colony here.
If you look at his date books, you see the excitement in his notations when they're off the road now and they're going to Muskegon.
I pulled out the rest and it was date books. I realized I had something extraordinary in my hands that I had never heard of, that I'd never seen referred to. This one book is so special. And then I got to the summertime, and he got to Muskegon, and he shows this train coming in, and the Joy character hops off. And then the next page just says Muskegon, home.
Buster adored Muskegon because it was summertime and they weren't going to the theater every day. He worked in the winter, he worked every day. They were always engaged.
Just imagine what it was like to be here on vacation. It's just being able, as Keaton said in his memoirs, to be able to put on a bathing suit and keep it on all day, nothing else. Compare that to what their life was like, most of the year, traveling on a train.
Going back to my early years, my dad always told us that we had a grandfather who was in Buster Keaton films, and he was Big Joe. So we always knew him as Big Joe and not really as grandfather or grandpa. So it was a story we grew up with, just always knowing that he was the sidekick of Buster Keaton.
Come summer, he could be a boy, and he adored it. He loved the people there, the friends he made. He loved going back every year. They had such a great colony of people.